bottles here. Match the Noval Nacional. Sports bottles. It's a great first evening of these.
So we're going to go older to younger, and younger to older, sorry. I wanted to go older to younger, but we're going younger to older. 2011, I think most of you tasted this already. It was a very exciting vintage for all of us in the port trade, and it was particularly exciting at Noval because when I arrived at Noval in 1993, as you probably know, Noval had known a period of about 20 years of relative eclipse in terms of quality ports, and in particular the vintage ports from the 1980s were pretty disappointing, and there were some Nationals made at that time which don't really deserve to be called Nationals. And it was absolutely vital that we send out a clear message to everyone that Noval was back and that we were not going to be making wines like that anymore ever again. And so one of the things that I vowed to myself when I started was that I would never declare either a Quinta Noval Nacional or a Quinta Noval Vintage unless I was convinced that it was outstanding at the moment we declared it and put it on the market. And I was lucky, I started with 1994, but what that's meant is that we've only ever declared a National since I've been there, when we were convinced that it was outstanding right from the beginning. And that's a good thing, of course, but I also have shareholders in Paris, and the last National that I declared before 11 was 2003, and so, you know, I had a board meeting or two where they'd say, we do admire your quality strategy, Christian, but when was the last National? And it was 2003 was the last one that was actually declared. So I was hugely relieved when 2011 came along. It just decides to be great when it wants to be great, and when it doesn't decide to be, there's nothing much we can do about it. It comes from, as you all know, this tiny parcel of 2 hectares of ungrafted vines at the heart of the vineyard, and it always gives something that is different from what comes from the rest of the vineyard, but it doesn't always give something that's better. And we have years where the Quinta Noval vintage from the rest of the Quinta can be absolutely wonderful. In 2007 was an example of that, where the National just doesn't shine, and not at all. And so 2007, a lot of people, including people in Paris, were saying to me, where's the 2007 National? And it just didn't come out to play that year, so we didn't declare it. And so that happens. You also have other years where the National can suddenly be extraordinary when the rest of the wines from the vineyard are not. And that was the case in 1996, when it was a decent LBV year. And after the harvest, Antonio Gross and I were tasting all the lots of wine, and it was all good LBV sort of potential stuff, but not sort of thrilling vintage. And then suddenly there was one lot, which was this dark black wine. We're doing it blind, so we wondered what it might be, and then we didn't really wonder. And it was the National 96, which had just decided to be an extraordinary wine in 96. I know that sounds as though we're absolutely not in control of the situation, but that's probably because we're not. But I don't mean by that to say the rather tiresome thing that you know, the wines will make themselves and all that. That's obviously not true. And things that happened in the 1980s at Noval show that even when you've got a great terroir, you can certainly mess it up. What I do think is important is that it does show that you can't inject greatness into something. It either is there or it's not. Of course, we have to do a lot of work. I don't know, but lots of people in the Quinta Noval team are paying attention to hundreds of tiny details and getting everything right in order to facilitate the making of the wine. But if I could do something magic to make a National, I would certainly have done one in 2007, obviously. But it didn't happen. Anyway, 2011, we had a great National, I think.
So when did you
Now, we haven't done much to the Nacional parcel. The rest of Quinta Noval, which is 145 hectares, I replanted nearly 100 hectares in the 1990s, which was quite a major operation, which is now bearing fruit, literally. And you know, when I was doing it, I thought that this was something totally long-term that I wouldn't see, and 20 years later, the long-term happens. And so that's Noval. It's always been a joy to work with Noval, but it's doubly so now because we've got all this fantastic fruit coming on from those 1990s plantations. But the Nacional is rather a proof that you don't have to work that hard in the vineyard to make great wine. Because we have actually done a few things in the Nacional parcel. There were a few white grape varieties in there which we removed. There were a few surprising grape varieties that were like Morisco, which really don't give much taste or quality, and we removed those and replanted. Naturally, over the 20 years, a lot of vines have died, and we replaced them in the Nacional parcel. We just take cuttings from selected vines in the Nacional parcel and replant directly in the soil, which doesn't always work, but about one time out of two it works. And so we keep renewing it, but obviously not on ungrafted rootstock. And so actually all we've done is just nothing very radical, looking after it a lot, as you might imagine. It's looked after organically, and we apply it with horses and that kind of thing. There's one other parcel at Noval where we do that, but we just feel that the Nacional parcel deserves a little special attention, and the horses just look great in photographs as well. Ask Alfred.
What was the average age of the vines?
Well, it depends. If you take into account all the ones that we've replanted that are hardly producing yet, it comes down quite a bit. But if you just count the ones that we're actually using at the moment to make the Nacional, it's about 40 years.
Christian, what conditions the Nacional vineyard when you inherited it? You said you had to pull out some Morisco and some white grapes and so on. Why had the quality of the Nacional gone down so badly under the old regime?
I don't think it was about the vineyards. I think it was to do with what was happening in the lagars. You know, Noval there was some significant hygiene problems in the lagars, and port is very resilient and very forgiving of sloppiness, but only up to a point. And I think that was really the main reason. But also the vineyard of the Nacional was not you know, really being looked after, and as it should be.
Was it overproducing?
No, I don't think that was the thing. I think it was just probably the reverse, because there were vines that had died and hadn't been replaced. It was just
Neglect.
yes, yes. I said at the beginning that my resolve from the first was only to declare either a Quinta Noval vintage or a Nacional if I was certain that they were outstanding right from the beginning. And that means actually, of course, you know, we make wine in the Nacional parcel every year. Some years we just know that it's not got vintage potential, in which case it could be laid aside to do something interesting with, like make a Nacional Colgate, which might appear one day. I shouldn't mention that. And the other thing you can do is make a vintage port, have it officially declared with the Port Wine Institute, but not tell anybody. And that's what we've done that with 1 or 2 years. And the idea is then to just wait, because sometimes vintage port, like any other wine, can surprise you 5 or 10 years later and confirm, yes, this is outstanding. Or sometimes you just think, oh, I was right in the first place, and we'll just have to drink it. But 2004 is a secret Nacional that we have not let the bottle out to the market yet. But it might be interesting to taste it today and see.